This video is about dividing fractions. Now you'll need to know how to multiply fractions first, so see my other video for a reminder if you need to. The process behind dividing fractions is quite straightforward, although you may need to keep on reminding yourself so you don't forget how it's done. However, it is quite challenging to understand why it's done the way it is, and I am going to try to explain it in this video. So I'll show you an example first, and then afterwards I'll talk about why it works if you're interested. So remember KFC. K stands for keep. That means we keep the first fraction as it is. The F stands for flip. That means we take the second fraction and flip it over. The C stands for change. So we change the divide into a times. And now we multiply the tops, multiply the bottoms. See my previous video for more information. Seeing one example in a video is not going to make you learn it, so I recommend you do lots of examples, lots of practice, and also mix your practice between multiplying, dividing, adding and subtracting, so you get the difference between them in your head. Now, to help you to understand or to think about what dividing means and when you might use dividing by fractions, let's look at some questions here. The first one. I cycle 10 miles in 40 minutes. How far would you go in 1 hour? So the first thing we'll get is the 40 minutes as a fraction of an hour. So that, I'll tell you, is 2/3 of an hour. So in 2/3 of an hour you go a certain distance, and we want to know the distance in the full hour. So that would be the 10 miles would be 2/3 of the full amount, and we're going backwards to the full amount. So we would take 10 divided by 2/3, and then flip the 2/3 into 3/2, change the divide into a times. We get 10 times 3/2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 5 times 3 is 15, and that is miles. Right, next one. So this is a trick to this, because I've said it's a 70% reduction, and that means only 30% is left. And again, I'll tell you, not a video on percentages, but 30% is 3/10. So we're going back to the original amount when we know the price for 3/10. So we are going to take £6 divided by 3/10. So we keep the 6, flip the 3/10 into 10/3, change the divide into times, and now we get £2 because 6 divided by 3 is 2, then multiply by 10 to get £20. Good. One more. 3/5 of a cubic centimetre of sugar weighs a certain amount. So we know the weight of a fraction of the cubic centimetre. We want the full cubic centimetre. So we're going to take our weight for the fraction and divide by the fraction. That'll take us back to the full cubic centimetre. So 0.9 divided by 3/5 is equal to 0.9 times 5/3. 0.9 divided by 3 is 0.3. We multiply by 5, then we get 1.5 grams. But what even is dividing? So what does dividing mean? Suppose we take a multiplying sum like 6 times 7 equals 42. So this would mean 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 equals 42. Also, it would mean that 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7 was equal to 42. Now, from this, we could also get the fact that 42 divided by 6 is equal to 7. We've got two numbers that multiply together to give 42. We call those factors of the number. If we divide by one factor, it will give us the other factor. We could also do 42 divided by 7, and that would give us 6. So the thing to understand here is that dividing is the opposite of multiplying. One of the numbers we're multiplying is a fraction. Dividing means exactly the same thing. So here the two numbers that multiply to give 9 are 18 and 18 and a half. If we divide 9 by one of those numbers, we will get the other number. For example, 9 divided by 18 would give us 1/2, and also 9 divided by 1/2 would give us 18. So imagine we're given a sum like 9 divided by 1/2. This means that there was some number that we started with. You see the question mark on the left. We multiplied by 1/2 and we got 9. To divide by 1/2, we need to work backwards and get the original number. Now how would you do that? You would multiply by 2. So the answer would be 18. And that shows you that dividing by 1/2 is the same as multiplying by 2. If we're given a slightly more difficult one like dividing by 3/8, it's the same idea. We have to find the original number that when you take 3/8 of it, you get 15. And that's dividing by 3/8. So if we can find out how to do that, we'll know how to divide by a fraction. Before we divide by 3/8, let's remind ourselves what multiplying by 3/8 means. So for example, suppose we took 3/8 of 32, this would mean we divide 32 by 8 and multiply by 3. So remember, divide by the bottom times by the top. Now 32 divided by 8 would be 4, so it's 4 times 3, this would give us the answer 12. So we need the answer to be 15. So obviously our answer to 15 divided by 3/8 is not 32. So how did we find 3/8? Well, we divided by 8 and then multiplied by 3. So now we need to go backwards for each of these, well, both of these steps. The opposite of times by 3 is divide by 3. The opposite of divide by 8 is times by 8. So to get our answer, we'll divide by 3 times by 8. 15 divided by 3 is 5. 5 times 8 is 40. And you may realize this is the same thing as 15 times 8/3, because there we would divide by the bottom, 3, and times by the top, 8. I'm going to try a slightly different way of explaining this, and please let me know in the comments which way makes the most sense to you, because that's always interesting for me. So suppose we're told that 3/8 of a number is 15, and we want to find the original number. On the right I've got a picture to represent the fraction, and we're told that 3/8 is 15. Now we can use this to get 1/8, because 1/8 has to be 5. That's 15 divided by 3, because 5 plus 5 plus 5 is equal to 15. So you can see our first step is to divide by 3. Our second step would be to fill in all of the 8s and see that they're all 5. So that means that 8/8 is 5 times 8, or 40. So our second step is you multiply by 8. And you can see that dividing by 3, multiplying by 8, is the same thing as times 8/3, because there you're dividing by the bottom, timesing by the top. When we flip a fraction like 3/8, the fraction we get is called the reciprocal. For example, 8/3 is the reciprocal of 3/8. Let's confirm that multiplying by the reciprocal takes us back to the original number. And we're looking to get an answer of 40 here. We're going to write this as one large fraction. So first of all, we'll make 40 into 40 over 1. Then we'll multiply all of the top numbers together. 40 times 3 times 8. On the bottom, it's 1 times 8 times 3. We will be able to simplify this by dividing the top and the bottom by 3. And we can also divide the top and bottom by 8. And that's called cancelling. So the 3's cancel and the 8's cancel. And we're left with 40 over 1, or just 40. the number we started with. So finally, if you have some problem and you think it maybe involves multiplying or dividing, so maybe you're trying to find out how long a journey would take at a certain speed, and you're not really sure which one it is or which way round the numbers go, then please try to avoid just guessing. So maybe you have some formula you can use, or your teacher, if you're at school, might have shown you some method you can use, because we really want to use reliable methods. Just guessing and hope you get it right is not a good way to go about solving problems.